In this example, we're asked to find some summary statistics for a set of data. And I'm going to suggest here that we use StatCrunch to accomplish most of this. So to do so, I'm going to first click on this data icon here and then open our data in StatCrunch. The justice number is not really the focus of the first couple of parts. I see there in the first parts I'm asked to find the population mean, population median, population mode, which I would have to just do that by going through that list, the range and population standard deviation. So those are the first things I'm going to focus on, and I can get all of that information by coming over here to Stat, selecting Summary Stats, and then selecting Columns, and I'm going to select the age column. That's where the real data is that I'm asked about, like population mean age, for instance. At the moment, I have all of this information that it's going to compute for me, but I really only need the mean. And if I hold down my control key on my keyboard at the same time, I can multiple select here. It's either control or the command, I guess, key, depending on what type of computer you have. So I'm going to hold that down. I'm also going to select the standard deviation, the median, the range, and a little bit further, I'm going to grab this unadjusted standard deviation. Let's go ahead and compute that. So what I'm looking at here, I think most of these are pretty straightforward, mean, median, range, such as that. And these are the same whether I'm being asked for the population mean or the sample mean. Where the difference comes in is if I'm asked for population standard deviation versus sample standard deviation. If you think back to the actual by hand formulas, they do have a slight difference to them. And what StatCrunch calls unadjusted standard deviation is the same as population standard deviation. So that's this value. I believe they asked for it to be rounded to 1 decimal place, but even if I round to 1 decimal place, I'm still going to have to round up again to the 7. And so that's why you see, let me slide this over a little bit more here, that the population standard deviation is 7 years. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is now find a simple random sample. I'm being told already that these justices are numbered 1 through 17, and if I think back to what I just saw there in StatCrunch, that was the first column, the justice number. It says that I've already randomly generated the following numbers. These here are justice numbers. So keep that in mind, that these are not ages, but the number assigned to each person. Okay, we're going to use these numbers to obtain a simple random sample of size 4. So I'm going to look for justice number 3, justice number 11, so forth and so on until I get that sample of size 4. So let me come back to the data. Oops, didn't mean to scroll that far. There we go. Okay, so justice number 3, and eventually I'm also asked to find the sample mean and sample standard deviation age. Okay, so not the mean of the justice number, but the mean of the age, and again of that sample. I am going to select here justice number 3. They had an age of 51, and I'm just choosing to record this in this third column. I could rename that column sample or something like that if you really wanted to, but for sake of time, I'm not going to do that here. Justice number 11 had an age of 68, so I'll add that one to the column. Justice number 9 had an age of 65. Justice number 14 has an age of 62. And actually, here at this point, I have my sample of size 4. I'm given a couple of other numbers to go by just in case. Let's say if, for instance, the 29. That's a 2-digit number that my technology selected for me. That was said that have already been done there in Part C. But notice I don't have a justice number 29. So I may have needed to skip that if that appeared earlier in the list. But once I get 4 and I have those 4 ages, now I can do another summary statistics. So I come back up here to Stat, Summary Stats, Columns. This time I'm going to select the column where my sample is. That's var 3. And I want the mean, hold down the Control or Command key, and standard deviation. StatCrunch defines this standard deviation the same way we define sample standard deviation. So that's the correct one I want. And those that you can see here are the values that we would need for the correct answer in my math lab.